Hey, have you tightened up today? Look, welcome to the Two-Tone Takeover, and I am the Two-Tone Bandit. This is a podcast for Tennessee Titans fans by a Tennessee Titans fan. Look, I want y'all to pull up and represent that two-tone blue the way that you want to. This is a fan-based community built just for us, a place where the fans can have a voice. On today's episode, we got a special guest from the Titans Report podcast, and we're taking a deeper look at interior offensive linemen and some of this wide receiver depth to see how we can really pull away the best thing possible out of this draft and whatever else may come to mind. You know how we do for the two-tone blue. But before we do, I need you to lock in, like, share, and subscribe. Tighten the hell up, and now we can get straight to it. All right, y'all, jumping back into it. Today, we got Jackson from the Titans Report podcast in the building. Hey, look, I got to give me a horn. I can't keep doing that vocally. But look, y'all get it. It's all passion and love. As always, hey, we got Real Ice Titan in here, man. My brother from another mother, man. Always love to have him. Great takes, great convo when we do get together. We're going to bring Jackson on to the Two-Tone Takeover, and make sure that you check out his podcast, man. If you want some real good, consistent, straightforward takes to make you think in and outside the box, check in with the young brother, man. He got a good vision and future, and I'm just glad to be here early on his career. But what we're going to do today, like I said earlier in the intro, so we're going to look at some of the wide receiver depth options. Then we're going to look into some of the interior offensive options, and also whatever else may come along. As you know, this is down to earth, humble podcast, and sometimes, you know, we do have other takes that come out, but we try to keep it in track for the most part. But it's all fun, it's all family, it's all love. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and give you all my top 15 wide receiver prospects in the draft, and I have them in tiers. And I'll toss it over to you all to see if I missed anybody, if there's anybody you want to throw on the list. And we can just kind of discuss where we think these guys fit, what's the likelihood of us having them, and the guys that we think we may get the impact that they may have on the team. So in no particular order of favoritism to me, just as how I see these guys positionally and skill-wise, as far as importance of their value, just down. So my first tier is guys that I see as, I see these guys as having the most obvious wide receiver one upside at the moment, and that would be Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, and Mekhi Lemon. And then my tier two is what I would consider high-end starters. That would be Zachariah Branch, Denzel Boston, KC Concepcion, Omar Cooper Jr., and Chris Brazzell. For tier three, it's guys that I do have upside, but may start as more of a role-playing type of guy right now, which would be Jeremy Bernard, Chris Bell, Skylar Bell, Eric McAllister, and Dejon Stribling, Devontae Ross, Aaron Anderson. And for my day three steals, where I think you can find some good depth options, would be like Brennan Thompson, maybe a Jacoby Lane, Colin Lacey, Berrien Brown, or even like an Eli, how do you say his name, out of Navy.
Henderson?
He knows that guy. You know.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But that's kind of my list right there. We can start however, whatever. I'm gonna toss it to you, Jackson, because to give credit where credit is due, Jackson did help come up with the topic for today, and so this is how we got here. So I roll with his topic. So I'm gonna pass it to you if you want to jump in, fight my list, add, take away, critique, or just give your general perspective on how you see us attacking wide receiver in this draft.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on today. I think the guy that you did not mention is Ted Hurst, wide receiver, who makes a lot of sense. He plays an X-row type of receiver, right? I think he's a little more not getting much appreciation because he played in a lower school, right? It'll be a big option at 66 for the Titans. If the Titans don't go wide receiver at 35, if he's there at 66, he can play an X type of receiver. Now, obviously, you're kind of thinking about Calvin Ridley. This is most likely his last year on the team. He probably won't be here in 2027. You're thinking about the future here, and I think Ted Hurst has a lot of potential. He's had back-to-back productive seasons. He got 1,000 yards last year, got 1,000 yards this year. Very good type of X wide receiver. He's a very good deep threat. And, you know, Cam Ward in Miami, we see it on tape. He likes his deep threat wide receivers. I think the biggest thing is he has to fix the drops. His drops have been a little bit high the last couple of years. But if you can add him at 66, that's a very good value for the Tennessee Titans. You mentioned my boy Jacoby Lane. I'm a huge Jacoby Lane fan. I'm a Trojans fan, man, so I give a good shout out to Jacoby Lane. Very good threat wide receiver. Now, he's not going to start right away. He's going to fill in for guys like Calvin Ridley, especially on that third down, but he can make reliable plays, and that's an X type of receiver that I can think fill in over time. So those are my two guys. I do like your list, but overall, I think you did forget about Ted Hurst. I would add him in there as well.
All right, I seen you. You don't mind me laughing. We got a thing.
Yeah, you're
we,
good.
we just know each other.
Good.
I see him. But no, I see him. I seen some facial expressions. And I know you got some people too. But yeah, talk to us, man. Talk to us about your options, starters, depth. Just how you feel. Do you think?
Well, not to be biased, because I'm a Chris Brazel
I saw your
supporter.
comment.
But I don't want to, because I understand the truth is, like, you have him in the right place. I have high expectations, but you have him in the right place. And but the first surprise you said that I thought was like a little bit eye opening was Chris Bell. I'm not, and I'm speaking not from like me being a fan of Chris Bell. I'm just saying, like, the general consensus is that he's a real player here, and you've got him in that third tier. I thought that was interesting. One guy you didn't mention at all was Bryce Lance, and I know he's a little bit far down there, but like, his 6'3" frame, 4'3", 440, like he's shown me some things on tape, and I just feel like he's a sleeper. Like I was telling somebody earlier, like if we don't draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds, but we end up, I'm gonna be disappointed at that point. I'm gonna be like a little bit worried actually. But if we end up drafting Bryce Lance, I'm gonna be like a little bit relieved. Like okay, maybe like let's see what he can do. Hopefully it's not another Racy McMath, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like he could come in, and if he's given a real opportunity, put over at the X position and see what he can do. My goal for the team is to have an X receiver who can stretch the defense. That's what I hoped that Alec Pierce could do, but we didn't get him. So we need somebody who can stretch the defense, who can demand a double team, and that's all we really need. Like, and if they don't double team him, it's got to be a guy that we can, not every time, but sometimes we can keep the defense honest and throw up a 50-50 ball, and we can feel good about this guy on a 50-50 ball situation. That's why I like Chris Brazel. It's not because I think that he is going to come in and be a Justin Jefferson on day one. It's because I think he can come in and he can stretch the defense, and if you don't double him, we can throw that up, and he's going to get a lot of them because of his height and his speed. So that's why I like him. But I don't want to focus on him. I want to focus on the question. And Bryce Lance was the one you didn't mention, and Ted Hurst is. I've been, since people brought him up, I've been looking at him a little more, and I can see the hype. And but then Chris Bell dropping down to that third tier. I thought that was the other thing.
Yeah, I did put him. I mean, that tier was, but I mean, they're off. Okay, like looking at tier, I was looking over while you're speaking on. Looking at Skylar Bell out of UConn and Eric McAllister out of TCU. And I'm just reading their stats. So looking at Skylar Bell out of UConn, he had 102 receptions last year for 1,200 yards. And then McAllister, we're not going up against any defenses, but 1,000 yards is 1,000 yards. And it's not, nothing to, I guess, overlook if you want to really see how they'll fit into the system. But honestly, before we actually go deep into that, Jackson, I want to actually, it's something that we spoke on the other day, and I want to kind of bring this point up to you to see how your feedback is on this. So this is what we have to realize, and let's break this down. Like, I totally agree with you about the Calvin Ridley thing. If you hear me speak on it, I'd say he's playing for his job this year because of the injury, because of the lack of production. If he doesn't ball out he's playing for a contract in general beyond us. So if he doesn't have that type of performance this year, then he likely might not even get for us. Great for us. And I think that's why it's a good signing. But if we just break down where we're at wide receiver wise to see how people can really fit into this system. So we know we got Ridley. We know we got Wandale. We know we got Elliott and Chin. So what I'm saying is we're already at 4. And then we can't count out, people like, I still think Restrepo he has a possibility of making a role for himself. And then if you say we draft a receiver, so we're looking at 6 people right there. So it's not that much wiggle room if you're talking about target shares, because we were talking about, a lot of people say they may even bring in a veteran wide receiver post-draft, maybe just to solidify depth. But then when you look at any veteran, no matter who you would want to bring in, you would have to consider that, for one, if you bring in the guy in, you're going to play him. But then 2, are you really willing to give this guy more targets and take away targets from the guys that you want to develop? So how hard do you really think that they will actually attack this? Like, how many receivers do you think we will add from this point into the preseason, like including veterans? Like, how many total do you think? Because where would they fit at? So what do you think about that, looking at the lineup of potentials that already are looking?
I'll say this about the veteran point. It'll be interesting to see what they go Juwan Jennings and Stephon Diggs, because those are 2 veterans you brought up. Now, the thing about Jennings, I don't really see him being a fit because he's a more wide receiver 2 type of guy. And we already have 2 or 3 of those guys on the roster. So it doesn't really make sense to sign him. His price tag is way too high. But again, the thing about Stephon Diggs is I'm not in on Diggs. Not good locker room guy. I don't think he's a good fit for this organization. That's the 2 guys I'm totally out on, right? My biggest question is today, and the reporting that's came out by, I think it was Jordan Reed, if I'm pretty positive. He put this out there about the day 3, day 4 wide receivers. And there very much could be a case where that's why I mentioned like a Ted Hurst or Bryce Lance. That's why I think Chris Bell is highly considered as an option, because he doesn't have to start right away because he had an ACL injury a couple seasons ago, right? Last season. That's why you can let Bell recover and take time, let him get healed, and then you can get started. That's why he's one of my biggest guys on the board, just because you can let him reset. Now, it is going to be interesting because one guy you did not bring up is Bryce Oliver, which is a guy that's still on the roster right now. And that's going to be interesting because you're going to have to eliminate one of those guys. And that's why I have a little more questions. Wide receiver, again, we'll see what happens through the draft. It's all going to happen. What's going to go through the board. Again, option 66, 101. It's really going to matter how they really value it. I will tell you this today. I'm still very highly on edge in offensive line for receiver. That's the biggest thing today. And I think if you're looking at a day 3 wide receiver, that's why, you brought up Bryce Lance. That's a very good mention. It's a very good guy that can be on the list. But I wouldn't be totally upset if you pick that receiver because I have faith in Alec Iamander. I like what he's done last year. He started off the season very hot. I think he just needs to continue that consistency throughout the rest of the season, not just have one hot, and then just go cold the rest of the year. If you see consistency from Alec Iamander, that's very huge for the Titans offense next season. With DK, though, I think he's still going to have a big role for Cam. He's obviously, those are 2 biggest Cam weapons. I'm still questionable about Calvin Ridley's injury currently today. I don't think anybody's really put anything out saying what he's doing, but he looks healthy. We've seen clips of him from training camp. But if you add a guy in that room, you have 6 guys, I'll be comfortable with that. I'm more in going with the wide receiver in the draft than signing a guy in free agency. That's where I'm standing today. What I want, though, is I wouldn't be surprised they draft a guy either in the 3rd, 4th round, and then the 7th round. But I do expect today, if you're telling me how many receivers they'll add, I think it'll be 2 before we talk about preseason. Either both of them in the draft, or the one unsigned free agent.
Okay. I'm going to add to that what you were just saying right now. Welcome, Titans fan B, to the chat. We're talking about wide receiver depth, and then we're going to get into some of the interior offensive linemen that a lot of people are worried about, but just to get you caught up on what we're talking about. But to add to what you were just saying, Jackson, My thing, I think we all have to consider is that it's so crazy how bad we are that we don't even mention these guys. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're not on the team. But Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett, even though they left, but when you look at it, these guys were. I mean, Tyler left, Van wasn't a presence, and Calvin was hurt. When you have three receiver veterans that you would expect to, let's just say they all finished the season with the Titans. If they did, I could have seen here, but when you take this on in on who they see was obviously becoming one of Cam's favorite weapons. And so you don't have a lot of options outside of that. So hopefully we can have a great and healthy year, but the veterans weren't able to draw the necessary attention to allow the rookies to actually develop. And I think that's why he was hot. But then we lost Calvin, Van wasn't, and Tyler left. It was easy to zone in on Ellick and take away from it. But when it comes to DK, my thing is I would rather use DK more of a gadget, type of guy, not like a true wide receiver, because he's so valuable to us on special teams. I don't want to take more than unnecessary risk. I'll keep giving him the ball on these plays, and then because we can find other receivers on the field in different packages, but we don't have that many options at special teams. Compared to what he was able to do last year. So I don't want to overuse him and then take because every time you run a play, you run the risk of injury for any play. And so that's just one of my concerns about when people shout out as DK being one of the receivers. I can look at it more like a package guy, gadget receiver in certain even if you use his speed as just a decoy, just to take the top off or stretch the field. Like, I'm fine with that. But that's just the things that I wanted to point out. Ice, did you have anything to add?
I mean, you guys are
I'm gonna
more
get you in on conversation.
you guys are more agreeable with me than most of the times I'm on here. Like Titans report up here. Like he's pretty much like me 2.0. Like, he's saying all the things that I say. Like, it'd be interesting to have Ghost in here right now. Like, but no, I mean, like, I think like the big thing to me is, like you said, like we've got 5, and if you add one more receiver, that makes 6. That's probably what we're going to go into the season with, is 6 receivers on the roster. So, and this draft, I mean, like, deep in the draft, there are some guys who like just got potential screaming from them. I mean, like, we haven't mentioned a few of them, and it's like they're late round guys. They shouldn't be given too much serious consideration. But when a guy is 6'2" and he runs a 4.36, like, you got to pay a little bit of attention. He played at Ole Miss. Dejon Stripling.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, that's another guy. I mean, like, there's a few of these guys down there that have that kind of physical build, and you can't ignore that, man. Like, those are guys who could carve out some serious roles on the team if you're talking about a late round wide receiver addition. But the thing is, if you're talking about that with us, that's a second wide receiver, in my opinion, because we need a wide receiver X, which means we need a serious wide receiver. We need a guy toward the top, somebody who we know can come in and play that X position. If not, Jamar Chase style, then just Alec Pierce style. Give us a deep threat that's not like, he's not the best receiver in the league, but he stretches the defense and he allows your other receivers to get one-on-ones underneath. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a home run here. If we end up getting it, that's great. But, like, we don't have to have a home run, and I think that's what people need to understand. Like, I think that's actually what rules out Carnell Tate as our first pick. I don't think we need a Carnell Tate. And if he doesn't work out, like, that's even worse. So, I mean, if you're going to pick a guy like that, you'd have to be absolutely sure. And I mean, like, one of the ESPN reporters said if he'd have ran a 4.42 and he was like an inch or two tall or something like that, like, he said he would have been second round pick, or the second pick for sure. But the fact that he ran a 4.53, like it
Yeah.
casts a little bit of doubt. Like you can't put him in front of Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles. Like those guys are just athletic freaks.
Hmm.
I put up a thing about Sonny Styles next to Javon Curse, and for people who haven't really looked at it, it's kind of wild when you look at Sonny Styles. Like athletically,
Yeah.
he's actually a little bit more athletic than Javon Curse was, and they're the same height. So I mean, it's like that's what you're getting if you pick this guy. Like I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna have the career that Javon Curse had, but there's different positions and everything. But like, I'm just to cast light on the athleticism. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I think realistically we could add a couple, like maybe two wide receivers in the draft, and then make it a competition for that sixth spot.
Yeah.
Um, you might see a surprise there in the preseason. Somebody might get bumped. But I would really like, in my heart, I would love to see Restrepo get a role on this team. Like
Absolutely.
I feel like he's gonna be the odd guy out, but it just I feel like with him, I feel like it's the same story as Will Levis. I want to keep him on the team and have him as the backup, but I want him to do well too. So I want him to go somewhere where he can actually do something. So, uh, with Will Levis, I hope he goes to the Rams. Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
it crazy about the guys? I think if you all remember that got called up over Strepo. Like we were all, I know, like everyone with the Titans was just begging, and then we see this random
We
guy.
were
Nobody,
raging.
we were raging. Like nobody knew about who this guy was like 2 weeks ago, and he gets called up over Strepo. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
So, I agree with that. I do.
Yeah.
I do. That's why I'm also very high on Jacoby Lane because at that point, it's just I think not a home run type of guy, but he's a guy that can be very productive for your offense. And I think when you're looking in this draft, you want to get a productive player no matter what every single picks, right? Your goal is for Mike Bergonzi is to add on this roster, right? Either rounds 1 through 7. Either it's a Sunny Styles at 4, which I'm very considering, Jeremiah Love at number 4. But if you look at on late in the rounds, your goal is to get the most productive players on your team as much as you can on both sides of the ball. You guys keep forgetting, I think fans keep forgetting, we've been missing those productive players. And so far for agency, I think we've been getting a lot of productive players. Corner, we got a ton of 2 great productive corners in Cornell Flott, Lante Taylor. And then look at the offense. The only thing that's missing is offensive line. You got a very productive receiver in Wandell. And then you got a very productive defensive line and John Franklin Myers, who's a very big stud. And him and Jeff just on that defensive line productively together. Now, I think what's really missing is either you can go both ways, linebacker or running back. In the later rounds, though, that's why it's very important in the 4th and 5th round, in my opinion, especially to add depth. And there's productive players everywhere in this draft, y'all. And like Mr. Einstein brought up, you don't have to get a Carnell Tate at 4. Carnell Tate's very productive, sure, but I like a Ted Hurst, Jacoby Lane, Bryce Lance in the 3rd or 4th round, just because those guys are also very productive and make a lot of value for this team.
Yeah. Right. And just before I pass it, I'm gonna open it up to you, Fan B. You had mentioned Deshaun Stribling earlier out of Ole Miss. Just want to let you know he had 55 receptions last year for 811 yards. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, the production is there. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, didn't AJ come out of Ole Miss?
Yeah, AJ.
Yeah,
AJ
and I'm not saying their career, but a lot of times schools tend to produce well at certain positions, if that makes sense. Like your LSU receivers or some of your corner, North Dakota linemen or certain things like that. Titan Fan B, you want to jump in here, give us your take on some of these wide receivers or where you think we can find depth at? Is any players that we miss? Anybody you want to highlight?
Oh, well, right now I think going over, we're looking at receivers and stuff like that. It's a big depth thing. As of right now, we have so many receivers. I think last year we were looking at the Titan Report's point was that a lot of people I want to see Restrepo play for this team. I want to see him play for this team. But I think what it is that we have too many pieces right now to right now. Let's say last episode, I believe we're gonna get a good receiver this year, and we're gonna see what he brings to the table, what he can bring. Like we're looking at Christopher Zell. A lot of people are saying Christopher Zell, a lot of smoke around that. Um, to see what he can bring to the NFL, but also too, I'm trying to see what what's gonna happen when Ridley, because I believe Ridley's gonna leave next year. I believe Ridley's gonna leave next year. And I think, at this point, this is a proven year for Ridley. Unless he does something amazing, like we said last episode, I don't think that he's going to be here next year if he doesn't do that. But
It would be
because
nowhere.
it's his last year, right? It's his last year this year, right? This upcoming season,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I really think they're going to see what they get out of Ridley, and then after that, what's going to be who's going to step into that role next? Because right now, Barganzi is all about production and looking to the future. And I think at this point, this draft works out so well for the Titans because it is deep at two positions that we really need, edge and wide receiver,
Mhm.
So two major ones, I guess. So, at this point, I think Barganzi, what he's going to do is he's going to see what he deems as a producing receiver, work it out this year. Okay, if it doesn't work out, then I know what I need to get next year. You know, because he's getting slowly putting pieces on and on to what he needs. And so I think this year with wide receiver, I'm not too heavy on the wide receiver. Maybe one, maybe two if they really like him enough as a dart throw. But
Mhm.
I really want to see. I don't think we really explored Xavier Restrepo like we should, because we kept putting James Prochet and Bryce Oliver over him. You know, to bring him in. And when he did come in, he did produce. It's just unfortunate that he did get hurt, So so at this point, I think we just gotta wait on what we have. We can pick up a receiver, but we still have to look at what we have eventually. Because I don't think the coaching staff last year really looked at what we really have, or even used what we have to the best of their ability.
Did
Yeah,
we
no,
ask? My bad. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, just add on the fact that because when he was saying it, I was just like, yeah, I don't think any of the guys had a fair chance. Like kind of when we look at Levis, I still think Levis is a pretty good quarterback, but he looked bad because of the coaches. I don't think you could have put a quarterback in the system that would have looked good unless he was
Cam
just.
looked bad. Cam looked bad with Callahan.
Callahan would have made Tom Brady look bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to give these guys a better chance, and I believe a guy like Dable can definitely see the potential that we see, but know how to actually use them, even if it's in certain packages. But you can't ignore the chemistry that he has with Cam, and so if you understand how to put that together and use it, I think we can see. I think the things we've been looking for, we're going to see this year. I think we always see the potential in a lot of players we draft, but seems sometimes the coaching staff just doesn't use them correctly. But yeah, I think that is a huge factor. And this year we're tell the tale of a lot of that. Honestly, I just can't wait to see how they develop the players this year. But you can go ahead with your point, Jackson, that you was going to make.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Mr. Ice Titan because the biggest thing about Brazo, I think some people are kind of confused. I want to ask you about this and get your opinion about it. Are you concerned about his route running? Because the biggest thing is he only sticks to a couple routes, comebacks, and the biggest thing I want to ask you are: do you think that he can develop at the next level where he can open that route tree just a little bit more? Do you think that could be the case for Brazo on this offense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I have a more favorable opinion of his route running tree than you do, just by that. I feel like he has he can do a lot of the routes. Like that was the comparison between him and Tyquan Thornton. Somebody brought him up, and so I went and like kind of dissected that comparison because Tyquan Thornton was also 6'5" and he ran really fast and he didn't turn out. And he was more of just like run deep and see if you can catch it kind of guy. And I don't want to really crap on him that much, but that's really that's what his game was. But Chris Brazel, he's got the whole tree, like he does a lot of different routes, and I think that's going to translate. The one thing that I will knock on Chris Brazel about is his press coverage, beating press coverage, and it's like somebody once said, "You can't teach speed; you can teach how to beat press coverage." That's doable. I feel like that's a hurdle that we can overcome, and so and I do believe in these coaches. Like I probably a lot of the things I've been saying recently have been with the mindset that this isn't Brian Callahan and staff now. We've got serious coaches who've been around the league. And you think, well, they've been with the Giants and the Jets. You can't look at that.
Yeah.
These guys have been in the NFL for like 15, 20 years. Some of them, like they're all bald headed. I'm just kidding on that part, but no, they've been around. Like we have one of the most experienced. Like if you were going to put together a new coaching staff in the NFL, I can't. I haven't looked this up, but I don't know if there's been one assembled in the last 30 years with as much experience as ours has. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
every single one of our coaches has experience. Now I'm not talking about 5 years. We're talking about 10, 15, 20 years experience.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing to consider when you're bringing up a rookie player, because it's not the first time these guys have seen a guy like this. Unlike Brian Callahan and company. It's like they really didn't know what to do with Levis, to be honest. It's like, what the hell are you doing? You got to wonder, like, how would Dable have reacted to that play? You know,
Yeah.
I wonder, like, would he have done that? Probably not. Like Callahan's emotions got to him. He was young. He's not been a head coach with that kind of pressure on. The camera's on you the whole game. Like you got to wonder, like, what would an experienced coach do in that situation? And it's worth noting that Dable isn't the head coach; he's the offensive coordinator. He doesn't have to worry about all that other stuff that Callahan had to worry about. He put so much on his shoulders. Like it's no wonder he failed. But I think the coaches really matter in the answer to your question right there. Like I think the coaches will solve the little issues that he has, and he can be a serious wide receiver in the NFL if nothing unforeseen happens, like an injury or something.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say, I think, I need to make a post about this and see how people react to it. But I don't think that we've had a better coaching staff in this organization since we've been here. I mean, if we go back and look at every coaching staff, I'm just really doing a quick run through, but I don't think we've had, especially when you say you mentioned experience wise, but when you just look at the reputation of all the guys we have in the positions that we have them in, I don't think we've always questioned a lot of our coordinators. A lot of our coordinators have been questioned. Like, okay, why has always been the term, but when you just hire your friends and just always move a guy up and nepotism. I think that's what it is. I think it's nepotism. But yeah, so I think that I'm not going to call them celebrities, but we are very familiar with guys who have a lot of experience, and I think that alone improved us. One of the questions, and I'm gonna ask you this, Jackson. I've said this to the guys before, but I always like to get takes from different people. If we had this coaching staff at the beginning of last year, do you think we would have still went 3-14?
That's a tough, because I'm thinking about the rosters too. Because you deep diving into it, I'm thinking about the players around. No, I don't think we've been. I don't think we would have been 3-14. I'm just going to say that out there. I think first of all, the biggest question that we're all wondering is what was Nick Holtz doing, right? When Callahan was the play caller, right? And that was my kind of straw for Callahan. I was like, that after that year, I didn't want him anywhere here anymore. So my biggest question was, okay, if you're going to give up play calling, right, which it seems like he was going to do, then he gave it to Bo Callahan. So really, what was Nick Holtz's role here in Tennessee? That's my biggest number one. Number two is, yes, you have talent. Look, on paper, the defense was nice. You had good pieces on the defense with Arden Key, Shabazz Joseph Day, Jeffrey Simmons. But you got to think about, we got 0 time. Our pressure rate last year, I looked it up, was like 18.9%. That's not good. That's not good, right? So the biggest question that I want to answer is, do you think we would have gotten more wins than 3-14? Yes, absolutely. I think so. Because this coaching staff with Robert Saleh, he didn't call plays with New York. So now he's finally going to call plays as the head coach. That's a very big improvement. The guys love Robert Saleh just being there. What I've heard from people all around and what I've seen, the guys love Robert Saleh's energy. Other guys around the league as well as love Robert Saleh's energy. He has a very good culture he's bringing to Tennessee. Brian Callahan and his staff, they're all shaking. And what we've heard out with reports, we're like, okay, we're not going to get fired. Callahan's not going to get fired to the end of the year because, Amy was like, we're going to hold off into it. And immediately he gets fired. And then the Titans start getting better, right? I think on paper, we had some pretty tough opponents down the rest of the season. But we played pretty great. We played great against Seattle. We played better against Houston. So you look at that and you're like, we could have gotten a couple more wins if we had this type of coaching staff. So that's my answer to it. But yes, we would have gotten I think we would have gotten a couple more wins in 3-14.
That was with the backups too.
That was the backups. Well,
that was the backup coaches.
And let me ask you guys this, because this is the topic I want to ask about just real quick, and then we'll go back to offensive line. What is I think you posted earlier, Mr. Real Ice, because you tweeted NFL at Fox. I think they had 6.5 wins. Mm-hmm. Do you guys think we're going over or under the 6.5? I think we might go over. I want to get you guys' opinion on that.
I think we're going over. I think we're going over. I'm gonna tell you
over. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you rock because I'm ready to go ahead.
So I back to the point when you said with the coaching staff, if it was a different coaching staff, I think to your point, Titan report, yes, we would get more. For the simple fact that I think if we had let them do what they were doing late season, earlier in the season, I think we would have caught a lot of teams off guard. Mm-hmm. Being that we got to look at the whole situation. What I think what Miss Amy was doing with Callahan was she wanted to make sure that she gave Callahan a fair shot. Mm-hmm. A fair shot. I think last year she realized that there was a lot of mistakes made, and she's like, you know what? But I just moved this man and his family to this city last year. I can't just fire him after 1 year. Let me give him a fair shot. But when she saw that 6 games going the way it went, it was like, and then Vrabel's coming to town.
Ring a bell. Vrabel's coming to town.
So she was like, you know what? Nah, I'm not doing this weekend. We're not doing this. This is enough. But enough is enough. So I think at that point, from the points, and the point is that she also, what you can see from her point of view is that, yes, you can complain about the roster. Yes, you complain about if anything is not good or this is not that. But situational football decisions fall on the head coach. The Alec Ayamaner catch that should have been a catch that you didn't challenge. The 60-yard field goal that you missed with 3 minutes left in the game in the second half. The first half. Those situations, you cannot make those mistakes, especially if you're in a hot seat. And I think that was really I saw what you did.
I saw it.
That was really I think that's what really made the kicker, for them. And I think they put Mike McCoy there because of the simple fact that he was more stable. Yeah. He was a stable mind. It wasn't much instead of that he was good or great. It was just that, you know what, let's just stabilize what we can and salvage what we can of the season, and then we go from there. And I think at that point, that's where they were at. So that's why you see Mike McCoy kind of being coy, not the wordplay, when it came down to 4th and 1, and he's like, let's just go kick the ball, because he was making those decisions because he's like, I think we did bad decisions early in the season. He's like, we're not kicking those 60-yard field goals, maybe one time, but we're not doing it over and over again, So to me, it's like, could we got more wins? Yes, I believe so, because I think we would have caught a couple of those teams off guard early on, and because in the season you're really trying to gear up. Like we were in that Broncos game.
Yeah, I was gonna say
we were in that Broncos game. If you look at it, we were really in the Broncos game. Just at the last, we didn't hold on in that fourth quarter. So we were in that game. We could have won that game. A lot of those games were close, back and forth, but stupid decisions. That one stupid decision, I hate to say stupid, bad decision. I would say let me fix my words. Bad decision cost us the game, and that's just situational. That's just situational football. You know, I know I wasn't the only one when he was like a 60-yard field goal with 30 minutes left. I mean, 3 minutes left. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I know I wasn't the only one screaming at the TV, and I'm like, what are we doing? And then even the announcer's like, I don't know why he did that. Like, if the announcer is saying it, like, there's no way to beat around the bush.
Yeah, there was a lot of loud boos that game.
And then on top of that, not knowing that an elbow down counts as in was a kicker too, because if we all know as Titans fans, our ex-coach knows the rules like the back of his hand. He knows he knows rules that even we wouldn't think of. So for him to not know that simple rule is like, wow. And I think what it was that like Callahan was over his head. It was in over his head, man. He was in over his head. He had too much going on, and he had too many. And also too, I think also too, the big factor was he had too many first-year coaches in those positions. You can only, when you come into a situation, you have to have some kind of experience on that's done it before. And the only experience that he had really was Bill Callahan, his dad.
And he was bad too.
Yeah.
He was bad too, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to think about it. Like, if he's bad and he's the experienced guy, the other guys are like, I do say this. I feel like Denard Wilson did hold his end of the bargain up. He did a decent enough job. I think that they just depleted his secondary, so he really couldn't do anything after that. I gave him that because he made really foundational, situational decisions on defense. He tried the best. It's just our corners weren't that good. They just got burnt. You know what I mean? They just got burnt. Plain and simple. So it's a lot of it's a credit. He tried to do what he could with what he had. So I wish that that could have been different for him, but at the end of the day, Callahan did a lot of this damage to himself. So it's self-destructed. So I think at the end of the day, we could have got more wins. I think we could have got more wins with McCoy, to be honest with you, if we would have went down on the 4th and 1s a little bit more, and we got more aggressive on 4th and 1.
We lost 5 games by 1 score or less, which is literally a third of our games. We could have easily went 6-11 and 7-10, and that's what I'm looking at. I don't think that if they were here, we would have. And I'm looking at somewhere in that range, maybe 6-11. I'll take that,
man. I'll take that, man.
And that would have kept Callahan his job. If he would have got us to 6-11, we would still have him. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise because I'm not sure how far. Even if he would have had a better season, I don't know how many more he would have had beyond that. So I'm not sure. But having this experience in here is really, really great. I'm going to go ahead and get us into his offensive lineman so we can start breaking down some of this protection because that's just as important as the guys he's throwing to.
Hold on 1 second before you go into protection. Okay. Another thing too about the Callahan thing, what really made me upset about it too was how come our receivers couldn't run a screen in the first couple of games. Do y'all remember that play when we were like close to the end zone and like Cam hiked the ball and he looked to the right and nobody was looking open, everybody went to block. He was just like, okay, throw it down. That's it. I mean, how were we not prepared for that? I don't get it. You called the play and nobody knew what to do.
It'll be better.
The one thing I got to say real quick is this 6.5 wins, which is what we're actually talking about here. Like, I think that after the draft, I would be shocked if it's still at 6.5 after the draft.
I put my rent money on that. Listen. That's easy. I'm gonna tell you honestly now. Whatever my record right now as it stands, and I'm gonna stand on it. I'm just that type of guy. I just die on the hill. I said 10-6. I got us going 10-7. I keep saying 10.
I can get behind that. Get behind that.
I was at 11 or 12 wins, but I've got a substantial amount of money that says we just have to have 7 wins right now. So
yeah, for that, yes, absolutely. Man, look.
But here's the thing. But like the way the AFC South runs, that you got to think about it. Most of the people that win the division, they get about 10 wins to 11 wins. And this year, the way I'm looking at the whole division as a whole,
Yeah.
I think the Colts are going to have a down year because it looks like they really rebuilding. They don't really have anything over there. They're
Shout
trying to get back. Huh?
I said shout out to Chris Bell.
Oh yeah, the Colts are going to have a down year. I also think that people are going to figure out the Jaguars
Yeah.
because the Jaguars are getting comfortable. The real threat it really is the Texans, but that's only if C.J. Stroud can pull it together, and that's why they're gearing up with all those the offensive linemen over there.
Yeah.
So that's where I look at it right now. So I think I don't think we're gonna get swept by the Colts this year. You know, I don't think that's gonna happen. And I think we might end up sweeping them. So that's 2 games right there. We might split with the Texans. Jaguars, it depends on who comes out, you know?
I think when the new schedule comes out after the draft, we're gonna have this conversation in depth.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I'm just reserving all my energy for that. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna. I don't know. Like I said, another early prediction. I think we go 4-2 in the division this year. I can get behind that.
Yeah,
that'll be better because we went 0-6 last year. That was the first time since 2000, I believe it was. I saw that stat.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was just bad. I think Robert Saleh got Leah Combs number 2. Let's not forget about that beef. I ain't gonna go down that rabbit hole, but we got some juice over here. Everybody got somebody. But yeah, let's jump into some of these offensive linemen, and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did. I'm just gonna go ahead and give you my list of the guys I have in the tiers that I have them on, and that'll just bust open the conversation. And we're gonna do it in the snake line. I'm gonna send it to Jackson, Ice, and then Titan Fan B. So just getting it started. Look, tier 1 guys I see as day 1 starters: Parker Brailsford, center out of Alabama, then Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Then tier 2 guys I look at as high end starters: Cedric Van Pant out of Georgia as well. Cooper Beebe, I think it's Baby out of Kansas State. And then got Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, Christian Mahogany out of Boston, and then tier 3, developmental starters.
Are you messing with us right now?
Yeah. I think this is last year's. Is this like last year's draft?
This is last year's rookie class.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jackson Powers Johnson's on the Raiders right now. Huh?
Jackson Powers Johnson.
You know what?
He said Donovan Jackson.
Brailsford is actually, you know what? I think I got my notes. Yep, mixed up.
Right.
Good catch.
You got us.
No, good catch.
April Fools.
April Fools.
Let me make sure I got some.
Are you before you start for real? Are you just gonna read like the guards and centers? Or are you reading the tackles too?
Yeah.
Well, no, this interior offensive line.
Interior. Okay.
So we're just looking at the interior.
Yeah, I was looking at like Jackson Powers.
Yeah, you know what? When I said that name, it should have stood out to me immediately because he is on the. I said the Raiders, right? He on the Raiders.
Yeah. But I mean, to your credit though, I think they really wanted to. People were thinking about them trading to get him, like a couple months ago, because they were thinking about because he's very versatile. I think he can play guard and center.
Yeah.
So that's what they were really looking at.
Which is a theme. A lot of these interior offensive linemen in this draft is you can see a lot of these guys potentially play both spots in this year's class.
Yeah.
So y'all tell me. I'm gonna read off. Hold on. So Bo Limmer out of Arkansas, Layden Robinson, Javion Cohen, Drake Nugent, Mason McCormick, Zach Zenter, Dylan McMahon. I think it's McMahon. McMahon on McMahon. Might be pronouncing that wrong. Trevor Keegan out of Michigan. And then some of the depth options like Hunter Norzad or Antonio Mafi, Matt Lee, Javonte Spraggins. Like I said, mainly center and guard because a lot of people have been wondering what we're going to do at center. I primarily think that Schlotman is the guy. I really do. And I don't see what the big fuss is about him because he doesn't have a bad He out of 363 snaps, he has 0 sacks and only allowed 3 QB pressures. If we're going off the sample size of patterns, then that means for every what? I mean, I can't even sample the sacks because he gave up none. So I would have to keep it at 0 if we're doing averages. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone has their day, but even if we're looking at pressures, you're saying out of almost 700 something pressures, a little over what, 720 pressures, that'll average at 720 snaps. You only get 6 pressures. I'll take that. I'll take that all day. And then I really do think we're going to bring Zeitler back. You and I were speaking on that ice last time. I just like you were kind of mentioning about Callahan, Titan B, about him getting settled in and giving him another chance. I don't think Zeitler necessarily needs another chance, but I do think he's settled here. He's a veteran late in his career. I don't think, coming here want to really uproot his family. Ice and I were looking at it. He does have 3 daughters. Youngest one was just born in 2021, so she'll be 5 this year, and the other 2 would be school age. So I'm just something to consider, because we look at the players, but consider the human element too. And you're in a tax-free state, you're settled in, you've been here for a year. Why jump up and, especially if he's not really going to a contender where you feel like, oh, I need to chase that championship. I just think that they may just have some type of verbal agree. Because, I mean, if he really had the demand or really wanted to sign with someone else, I think it would have been done by now. So I just think that I think what's happening is we're going to go into the draft. You really can't guarantee who you'll get out of the draft unless you may have the top maybe 4. I mean, I'll say 3. Because even between 4, 6 to 3, you can get, anything can happen. Like, we can get jumped at 4. So you don't know. So I think they're going to go in the draft, see what positions they're able to fill. And then once they're able to see, okay, we were able to add an extra receiver, an extra guard, an extra what have you, then we can come back and do some post-veteran cleanup. And I just think Zeitler, I wouldn't be surprised if after the draft we signed Zeitler and or Bobby Okereke. To be honest with you, I'm not a Joey Bosa. I'm not all Cam Jordan. I mean, I can see us adding to what's that edge linebacker and guard. I can really think that we can afford them. They're cheap guys. But I just think they're going to attack the draft, see what positions they fill. I mean, of course, we got our guys we want, but I'm more so focused on what positions are filled, because that's going to tell you how deep we are on that depth chart, and then we'll be able to come back and do any post-veteran cleanup. But do you have your eyes on Jackson as far as center guard? How do you feel about Schlabin? What do you think the chances of Zeitler coming back? I'm going to toss you the floor, and you can tell us how you feel about the interior offensive line.
Well, I'll start with Slotman, and I'm really high also on Jackson Slater. I think it's a guy we have to keep in mind of, the 5th-round rookie from last year. What I've been hearing with guys in the building, it's looking like it'll be Slotman and Slater competing for that spot, right? And I've talked to Stoney, I've talked to Easton. They have really been hearing that Jackson Slater has been really looking good this offseason. So really, Slotman and also Slater can compete for the center spot. And you brought up Austin Slotman. I'm high on him. I think it's a nice deal. You got him for a 1-year deal, cheap year deal. He only played in 4 games last year because he was a more depth type of role. But the thing is, he's familiar with Carmen Brasilio on the offensive line. They worked together back in New York. Brian Dable's a big fan of him. So that's experience right there on your offensive line. The thing I'll tell you about Zeitler is it sounds like he'll maybe sign after OTAs, right? And I think I'm high on re-signing Kevin Zeitler. I think it's a smart move for the Tennessee Titans, but this doesn't take me away from the guard position in the draft. I think if you go Jeremiah Love at number 4, your high priority is getting a guard, because, Zeitler is going to be the guy for 1 year, and that's all we expect. You're looking for the future. And again, I talked about earlier is positions of need and the impact players. And I'm looking at guards, and the 2 guys on my board at 35, because I think 35 is the highest you can talk about guard. And that's obviously Emmanuel Pragon from Oregon, who started both left guard and right guard last season. And then you go to Chase Pasanis, who's also A&M. So you look at those 2 guys at 35. But my biggest favorite guy is at 66, and that's Kalen Rutledge, who I've been a huge fan on. Good run blocker, good hands, good verticality type of offensive guard, and he's started at right guard. I've watched some tape on Ruben Bain, and I was watching him going one-on-one against Kalen Rutledge. Kalen Rutledge is a type of offensive line that can start day 1 for the Tennessee Titans. So if you get Rutledge, and if you have also bring back Kevin Zeitler, that's a good move for the Tennessee Titans. And again, like you said earlier, I think they'll add at least 2 offensive linemen in this draft because really Kevin Zeitler can sign anytime, right? Maybe he might sign before the draft. That can really be a big possibility. I think it's more likely after the draft, but I'm not comfortable just banking, just waiting on until after the draft and be like, okay, we're going to go grab him. You need to go draft somebody. And another guy that's kind of been under the sleeper is Billy Swath, who played left guard and right guard at Notre Dame. And I have a video talking about him later. Very good size, very good hands. He's been injured the last couple years, right? So your biggest priority is guard. I wouldn't really rule out the Titans also drafting a tackle that has a little more shorter arms that can also play that spot as well. But you also got to think about the offensive tackle position because the Titans can get out of Dan Moore's contract next season, right? That can be a very big possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Guard's a big priority in this draft. I think he goes high as 35. I'm still high on re-signing Zeitler. I think it'll be a very good move for the team. But Caleb Rutledge is a very big guy at 66. I've heard about him going at 35. I've heard about him going late in the first round. Who knows? Maybe Mike Vrabel might ruin our plans again because, you know, he drafted Cole Strange, who's supposed to be in the third round 2 years ago. Well, not Vrabel, but Patriots. Maybe that might happen. But Kalen Rutledge, Manuel Pregon, and also Chase Gonzalez, the 3 things that these guys have familiarity, they start a lot of games. They can play their positions. They can play both sides at guard positions, good run blockers, very strong. And those are 2 guys I'm looking at the guard. 3 guys I'm looking at the guard position. So I think guard's a big priority for him, and then they have to dress in this draft. So those are the couple guys that I've been keeping an eye
Okay. Yeah. I see you nodding your head a lot, man. So y'all got a lot in common, man.
Yeah, we agree on Billy Stroth. I think he's one to watch. I don't want to blow him up like Chris Brazzell, but you know he might be a player that you know carves out a role in the league. Another one is Jalen Farmer. I'm big on the combine for offensive linemen for some reason. When Jalen Farmer, he put up 37 bench reps at the combine. I think that's pretty stout. You know, it's like you can't teach the strength. You know, you can try your best to build it up, but he's got it. You know, and you know he just needs to be taught. You know, the little things here and there. And you know he played in the SEC. You know, so he's played against some good competition. I think Jalen Farmer is another one to watch out of Kentucky. But Jennings Dunker is probably my big one that I'm a fan of right now. He also performed fairly well at the combine, and you know I would say like I'm not saying he's better than the guys like Emmanuel Pregon or whatever, but I just you know he didn't do what Jennings did at the combine, so I'm kind of like you know if you don't run the 40 for example, then I feel like you have something to hide as a wide receiver. You know, like if you don't do the bench reps at the combine, you must not be able to do much. You know what I mean? Like when people perform at the combine, like, and I know I picked on Manuel just now, but he actually did do the bench reps. He had 30, but that's not 37. You know, that's what Farmer had, and that's why I'm a big fan of Farmer. So I mean, my point is here, not to talk too much about one guy. It's just that there are some interesting guys in the draft, and there's several of them, and they're late round prospects too. It's not like you have to draft these guys at 35, because I am not a fan of drafting any kind of lineman at 35. Like if we draft Jeremiah Love at 4, or we draft Sonny Styles at 4, either one of those means that we really need to take a wide receiver at 35. You know, I've heard this round 3-4 talk with wide receiver. That's risky. Like, I mean, I like Bryce Lance, but that's risky if you want to go that route. I think there's other ways to go about it, but you know, if that's the way we decide to go, like 35 is going to be an interesting pick. I just hope it's not a lineman. And as far as Zeitler, I agreed with I don't know whose point it was now. I've heard it a few times, but maybe after the draft, like we see who we're going to get in the draft, and then we decide if we're going to take Zeitler or not. Because you know if we were to get somebody in the draft that we felt really good about at that right guard position, then maybe don't bring Zietler back. But if we don't get the guy we're looking for, that Borgonzi's looking for, then maybe Zietler is like hanging in the cards. Like maybe that's how he looks at him. So I think that's where we're sitting at with the interior lineman and with Schlottman. Like I think he's the starter on day one. I'm in a full agreement with the two-tone bandit here. I think that Schlottman is the guy. Everything he said, I have been beating that drum for a while now, and I'm confident in him playing the center position. Unlike seemingly most people, like most people seem like they're freaking out about the center, and I don't think there's a problem there. I really don't.
Let me ask you this right quick. So if we go that direction, with the guys we have, and let's say we did pick up a guard that we really like, do you not still bring in Zeitler for the year to maybe coach up the young rookie? Because who else? How deep are we at depth? Are we swinging Slater from center to guard, or how does that play out as far as the depth that you see? Who do we currently have over there?
You talking to me specifically?
Well, I mean, I'm putting it out. So I'm addressing everything, but anyone. But yeah, I mean, because if you do but I'm just adding to the point of if you said if we have Slyman as the center and then Slater, because I know that Jackson was pointing out that that's kind of where they think those guys are at. But I'm saying if we don't bring in Zeitler, and I'm adding to the point that you said, if we do, let's say you do get a guard that you like really feel good about, how deep are we though? Like, where's the depth at? Are we stretching Slater from center to guard in rotation, or do we have good depth? Or why not bring in a veteran for, like you said, it's 1 year only? At least this guard can get some. I mean, that's a good guy to learn from. Well, it'd be good to learn from Zeitler for a rookie. So, just how do you feel about the depth behind the guard position, regardless of who we brought in, whether it was just Zeitler or we found somebody from the draft? Like that's all. I'm just trying to see how we assessing the depth at that guard position.
I'll be honest. Go ahead, Mister. And then he had some point.
You can go first.
Vlausen is the only really depth guy we have at the right guard spot. We signed him from Cincinnati this offseason. Besides that, it's just Slater. I think depth is a big need on this team because the thing with the Titans is we go on for so many years, we don't have much depth, and that's really been a big problem on the defense, which we'll touch up later. But offensive line, you can never have too many offensive linemen. I think guard is a very big position. You can have a lot of depth. So Vlausen's the only guy that's think on the roster. I think you have a couple backups, a practice squad type of guys, not looking at the active roster besides Vlausen right now. But Vlausen also hasn't started games since 2024. So back to your point, are you really thinking about if he's going to be able to be a big depth role right away because he had a shoulder injury, missing the rest of the year? Or I feel more comfortable re-signing Zeitler and then drafting at least one or two guard position, centers type of position guys, and then rolling with that at the time of preseason.
I think so too, because with that situation, you got to account for it. Knock on wood, injuries too, because we want to get caught in a situation where, oh man, we Zeitler's out. Oh, who's going to come in? Who's going to slide right in? And Brasillo is going to have to have a line that he trusts. Oh, I know this guy can slide in a couple games till he gets back, or, and that's the thing about the NFL. We get to the situation where we get a lot of things, and we see the situations like, okay, we got the line set, but then the season starts, and the banged up comes, and they Zeitler's not a young pup no more, man. He's older, So you got to understand, like, but that he has to recover. He's not going to recover as fast as those young Thundercats out there. He's not going to get that benefit. So when Zeitler's like, hey man, I need to rest this game. My shoulder is not feeling like it's supposed to. Then they're gonna have to slide somebody in there. So to your point, I think they're gonna draft somebody that's gonna in that guard position, and whether it's somebody they can develop, but Zeitler's gonna be there because he's a veteran presence. He's been in his league for so long, so it's like I can show this young buck how to last in this league, how to stay, keep a job in this league, And so with that's the experience that he brings along with starting, of course, because you're not gonna disrespect him, but at the same time too, Borgonzi, like me and Two-Tone said last episode we did, Borgonzi likes to look toward the future. He likes to prepare for the future. Because some of these moves that he makes now can help him better prepare himself for next year's draft. Because he's going to look forward to next year's draft after this one's done. And so when you start looking at that, you're like, okay, how can I solidify this line? For a good example, like I forgot about Dan Moore's contract to be traded
Mm-hmm.
next year. So with that being said, it's like, and Bergonzi has said it's come out of his mouth. You can never have too many offensive tackles
Mm-hmm.
because the offensive tackles, are gold in the NFL. So with that being said, I think I think Bergonzi could really go for maybe offensive tackle and a guard. Just to solidify. Maybe a guard that's kind of what do you call it, versatile. You can switch him around, move him, something like that. I can see him doing that just because solidify. Because the one thing is that we want to do this year, and I really hope they do it, is protect Cam Ward by all means necessary.
Yeah,
I
100%
think,
with you.
yeah. So
Yeah,
y'all can
I
go ahead,
really
man.
and that's I'm gonna add on to what you were saying on that. That's kind of how I'm looking. I don't know. I tend to look at the in between thing. I tend to try to read in between the lines and look at the intangibles on things. And I don't. I mean, I think we'll address a few positions on the offensive line for sure. But I really think that we'll go in like the way we did defense. I think it's the reason he went all in on defense. And a lot you got to think about it. Like it's not that many 1-year contracts on defense. We signed a lot of multiple year contracts. So we
Oh
really
yeah.
like, okay, let me get this out the way. We did touch. I think he's splitting up the rookie class because last year we did a little rook Cam Ward, the receivers, Gunnar Helm, and I mean, you look at a couple of these guys. I think we'll kind of do that the same way, a little sprinkle of offense here, but I really think next year you'll really see him address the offensive line. Moving forward, I really think you're going to see. I think that's what he's gearing up for. Like, let's get the defense out the way. Let's add to the offense we had last year, and then we'll go in because with the Dan Moore thing, I think because I believe he has 2 more years left in total if he plays it out. I think they may keep him for 1 more year and then let him go.
Yeah.
But I think that they will draft the left tackle of the future next year in the draft. See, I keep mentioning the fact of how stacked next year's draft will be. You have a lot of premium players that's going to be coming out in that 2027 draft. And when you have drafts that are loaded like that, it pushes a lot of premium talent down in the draft. And so it wouldn't, be far-fetched to say that we'll be able to, I mean, not just us, but I mean, teams will be able to find starters in the 3rd and 4th round next year because of how many people will get pushed down when you're looking at, like I said, I mean, one could argue that you'll have at least, 10 plus quarterbacks that be able to go in the 1st round. What would that do to all the players that get pushed down? And then, the offensive line isn't the sexiest position. So you're going to have receivers coming out. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about Jeremiah Smith, and he got a lot of other people and quarterbacks and more premium positions that will get addressed by teams that will push certain overlooked pieces like maybe some tight ends, linebackers, and offensive linemen down the draft that'll be a lot of value for teams to pick up in the later rounds that isn't normally there. So, like I said, as a GM, and I keep mentioning this point too, we're fans. We're going to be with the team through and through. But Bergonzi, he has a job. He's hired. His job is to retain employment. So let me look ahead. Let me make sure that I'm thinking ahead. And I remember when they recapped his interview, they highlighted how he came in there. He had a binder or folder. He was very organized and well put together. So again, I'm not far-fetched to say that he isn't even looking at the 2028 draft. Like, again, we're talking about a guy who openly admitted that they knew they were picking Patrick Mahomes a year before the draft, and they weren't even in position to pick him. They had to move up to get the guy. So, we're talking about somebody who was already on the team with the mentality of thinking ahead. So I'm trying to think in that same mentality and say, okay, how's his gears thinking? But one thing that
to your point too with that, I do I like how you say you think about like how Bergonzi thinks. I kind of take a little a dab in that too because like when he said something that was stuck to me last year when he was like, we have our board, and when we have our board, we play different draft scenarios. We do different draft scenarios to see what we would do in this situation and what we would do in this situation or what's going on if this happens because he said the draft is very unpredictable. We can only be prepared We can only be prepared for what's going to happen, but we don't know what's going to happen. So let's just say the guy that we really want is gone. What do we do next?
Mm.
How do we pivot? And then he said that, and that's what makes great GMs. And to me, that's letting me know that he's not just looking at he can hear the hype and everything and who we want and everything like that. Yeah. But as for future reference, let's just say we don't have a top 10 pick. He's looking at if we didn't have a top 10 pick, do we trust our GM to make the right decision? Yes, I do. Mm-hmm. Because of the way he prepares to go into the draft. Okay, I know my team needs this. We got good scouts. What is too rich to take him at this time? How do you think they're going to play out? Okay, who has before us? What are trade scenarios that we can think can happen? You know, and that's what they go over this time. That's why he says there's a lot of sleepless nights because he said it himself. I stay in this office between this is like zero, dark 0 hour. Like there's nothing for me but this board and me working this. And to me, that says a lot compared to like the John Robinson and Grant Carthons and things and stuff like that. We seen them in there, but at the same time too, when we see Mark Berganzi, the picks that he's making, there's a reason why that draft class was so productive last year. Like right now, I believe in Gunnar Ham. I believe Gunnar Ham is tight end 1.
I believe in Femi.
Yeah. I believe in Femi. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that picture that they put up a day ago? Of them in the gym? And Femi picking them weights up? I was like, it don't look broke to me.
I want to add to that Femi comment because I think Titans fans, at least some of them are ruling him out because we only saw like 6 games out of him, right? And the thing I want to put to Femi is that he was a project coming in, right? When we traded back that year, Femi was a project. He only had 10 games at the edge position. He was a full-time linebacker at UCLA, converted to edge. I still think he has a ton of potential in that spot, and I think that Robert Saleh is going to really like Femi on that defense. Spoiler alert in a couple episodes. Funny enough, I was just writing it up early and have Femi on the list, but I think Femi Oladejo is going to have a good part of this defense. And let me tell you what, the thing about Saleh's defense that players really do like is that he rotates a lot, right? You're going to see a lot of good players rotate, like Jermaine Johnson, Femi. When you do add an edge at either whatever pick you're going to do it, those guys are all going to rotate. John Franklin Myers is going to play on the outside. This defense, man, is going to have a lot of options, and I think Saleh is going to take care of the guys very well, and Femi Oladejo is going to get a very good chance. I won't be surprised, y'all. This is a hot take to y'all. I won't be surprised if Femi gets at least 10 sacks this season. It won't be surprising at all.
You know what, man? I agree with you on that because of the fact that the other guys are going to get so much attention.
Yeah.
They're going to get so much attention.
John and Jeff, yeah.
They're going to get so much attention that Femi's going to have those one-on-ones, and people forget how strong Femi Oladejo is. Like, if he can blow up that spot, he gets around that corner smooth. I'm telling you, that's the dangerous part about it. I think, and that's the thing about even though Femi's a project, people don't realize that a project is something that you can mold into what you want it to be.
Yeah.
So you giving Robert Saleh a project like that to mold into what he wants it to be? That's so much potential. Femi's potential just shot out the roof because you have Gus Bradley and Robert Saleh there.
Yeah, well, to add to Jackson's point, like you said, he was mainly a linebacker. So you're just talking about Saleh rotating guys. Who says that they will permanently just sit him at edge? Why not have a package set up where you have 2 edges and you can move him back to a position that he's familiar with and have him as an off-ball linebacker in certain packages? Like you said, it's going to be very, very hard to predict. But one thing I'll say is, like, coming up to this draft, I think we'll also, like I said, me and Ice share sentiments on this. We think this is going to really help us understand Borgonzi a little bit more, like, because then you'll get to see a pattern. You get to see how he drafts, how he decides, how he pivots. Because we only had one. I mean, you really got to give the guy a little bit more credit. And I'm not saying none of us, I'm just saying in general, because I think Fan B, I think you made this point, like the fact that when he came in last year, he only had like 2-3 years to get ready for a draft. And then,
2-3 months,
And
Yeah.
then, it's like, what do you
And the
do?
picks that he made in that 2-3 months was it to me. It was like you found all this talent. You made some trades to get this talent.
Yeah.
All of these couple of months. That's very impressive to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive to me because you did this in all 3 months, and this might be one of the best drafts that the Titans have had in
Oh,
years.
100%.
You know,
Hey,
so you got to think about it in that perspective. It's like you did this in a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
What a couple of some of our past GMs couldn't really do like that.
yeah.
You did that in a
We
couple
know which
months.
past GMs though. We know which past GMs.
Yeah,
are
we know. We're not gonna say their name,
We're not gonna say their
but
name.
he did that in those couple of months. And to me, I mean,
Mhm.
as a Titan fan base, I think we fell in love with this rookie class by how hard they work
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how hard they play. Because when Gunningham caught that ball of those 3 people, I was like, oh my God, we got him in the fourth round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
We got a Pro Bowler in the 4th round. I mean,
You know, we got them
the
three.
same
We got
thing.
them three in the fourth round. Like, think about it. We got all 3 of them in the fourth round,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of the touchdowns came from them.
I think it was Gunner, and I think it was not Bam.
Tim,
It was Chim. I think maybe Alec had a couple too. I do want to bring up this point because you brought up about the rookie class last year. I'm excited for roles that Marcus Harris is going to have this year. I think Harrison
Yes.
is getting a big
Mhm.
role. I like Kevin Winston. I mean, the thing
Kevin
about
Winston.
Winston I want to bring up is he had an ACL, which had him to have some hamstring soreness right from the first 5 weeks. But once Winston's on his game, he's on his game, and we've seen a lot of promise from the kid. And just because looking back on it, looking on the scouts things from the year ago, Winston should have been a first-round pick if he wasn't injured, right? So again, like when you mentioned, to add on to your point, we got steals later on in the draft, and a little bit of a hot take. That's why I'm interested trading back a couple spots at 35 just to get another pick and add another value at that spot and wherever they want to go. But still, I think last year's draft class was a huge promising year. And also add on to the other point is I think you have to build through the draft, right? For agency, you build, you get some guys in to fill holes. But really, a good team builds through the draft. And I think many years before, besides 2019, the Titans have really struggled finding pieces in the draft, especially quality players. And that's why I think we're all very excited, is because we get a new brand new coach, new coaching staff. Mike Bergonzi is a very smart GM. And you pick his brain, he's going to give you good answers. So, again, I'm very excited to see in year 2 Mike Bergonzi, wherever he's going to go at 4, 35, 66, wherever, whichever pick. If he does trade back, I trust his plan and I trust his vision.
yes.
I don't think I ever had a more exciting fourth round as a Titans fan than last year.
Me too, man.
Like that fourth round with me was like, what? We got, we got this, we got Gunner, we got this. And I'm just like, man.
Get ready for it again, man. Especially if we do a trade back. Like I said, we probably will pick some nice picks because, like you said, we trust the guy that's running the show. But I really think, again, I'm going to say this again, I think a lot of the magic is going to happen on day 3. I think a lot of, if you look at our pick, especially, I'm really, really curious, especially if we don't move the pick at that. I want to say it's that 5th round. I think it's 142 and 144 because they're so close together. That I want to see how, that's real close. And if we can actually trade back and then maybe gain another 4th or 3rd too, oh man, man, it's, I think you build for depth this year. You might pick up a blue chip or 2, at least 1 for sure. But I think you get good depth because I think I had mentioned that in our group chat earlier. Like, of course, I want a good key player, but I don't want to also be one injury away from going back to square one. I want good depth pieces. We need good rotation. When you look at a lot of these teams that that win Super Bowls like the Seahawks and the Eagles, when you look at those defense, it wasn't just the main guys. They were able to rotate healthy and be able to keep guys going. And when you can do that on the O-line, on the defensive line, and in certain positions, you keep your team more stable throughout and you're not gassing your main guys and putting too much on one guy. And that's kind of what I want to emphasize. So it might not be the sexiest selections or the most intriguing picks, but for me personally, as long as they actually produce and perform when comes September, I think we'll all be just fine because we can root for who we want to. But at the end of the day, that no one selection guarantees their performance. Even if Jamar Chase is not guaranteed to go 1,000 this year. I mean, he probably will, but you always have to prove it every year, every week until your career is over. Unfortunately, in the league, and that's just what it is. It's a what have you done for me lately? So no matter who we pick, where or when, I just want them to be good and perform when we need them the most. So that's my pick on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I also think that this year, I think our receiving, our rookies from last year, that receiving group that we did have, I think they're going to take a leap this year too. Because like I said last episode, they're not preparing for the draft combine this year. They're not preparing to try to get picked this year. They're preparing for their career this year. So this training that they're doing now, they kind of know their role. They know their roles this year, and now they're preparing for those roles. It's not necessarily like, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm just going to stay ready. That was last year. This year is like, okay, I'm on the Titans. Now I know what I need to do. In order to make this team succeed, I know what Cam needs from me. I know what this team needs from me. And I think this year you're going to see a jump, especially Alec. Alec Manor. I think Alec kind of understands it a lot more now.
Yeah.
What he workouts too?
Oh yeah, man. I've seen him. Crazy. I've seen those workouts. I've been watching everybody. Yeah, I've been seeing Alec. I've been seeing Gunner a little bit too.
Yeah, man.
Gunner been getting out there too, getting busy. So it's like, I love to see it, because my thing is like, I know they care about it. It shows that they care about it. We want to win. We want to win now. I can't wait for that Cam Ward video to drop when they're all together somewhere on the field, because I know it's coming. It's coming. Now that he got his squad, he's gonna bring them along with him. And I think this year you're gonna see a more leadership role from Cam that he's already been more than he's already doing. I think Cam is now looking at his footwork, how to work on that, how to get better. What can he do to get better? And I think a lot of that stuff is working. And I just can't wait till Dable really gets his hands on him. But when Dable gets his hands on him, it's gonna be cinema.
I want to bring up a guy I think who you probably excited about, Cam. I'm excited for Jeff Simmons. I mean, the thing about Jeff is from last year to this year, and I know everybody doesn't look about it in the locker room perspective, right? But what we've seen is that he's really took a big step as a leader, right? And that's the big thing to Jeff. He's matured a lot more, which is great. He's a more better leader, fantastic player. Look, Jeff's been always a fantastic player, but getting a guy actually his impact on the field, I think Big Jeff's going to have another great 11.5 sack year this year. I think that's
but if you remember last year, when we saw him training last year, he was like, that wasn't good enough for me last year. That wasn't good enough. He was still like, that wasn't good enough. He had a decent year, but he's like, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And I think what right now is that rookie class gave Jeff, to be honest with you, it gave Jeff a really fresh pair of fresh air in the locker room. Because he started looking at that rookie class like, man, these guys here to work hard. He sees himself in them. So for him to keep saying every year, man, we just gotta care, man. We gotta come in and care. Like somebody, it's like a scream for help. Please help me. Somebody come help me. I'm trying to reach them, but I can't reach them because they don't care like I do.
And to bring up your point, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna bring up to Bandit's point. There's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna projected to go earlier. They're gonna fall, right? It happens every draft, every single year in the draft. A guy is projected to go maybe mid third round, early second round. It's gonna maybe fall to 101, maybe 142 for the Tennessee Titans. And there's a lot of good value, and that's what I look at. I don't know if you boys saw this. Some NFL.com insider brought up a trade scenario for AJ Brown. It's not happening. I don't know if you guys boys saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it maybe like a day ago. Yeah, but I mean they're talking about like a 6th round pick or something like that. Not 6th round, but it was like the 1st round pick with Howie.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
it. Was the 1st round and was it a 1st and something else from next year?
It was a first for 2026 and then 2027 in the 2nd round for this year. So those are
that's too much. That's too much.
That's too much, man.
Yeah, we need because the point is that with that when I saw that I was like, they don't understand that we need talent.
Yeah.
But the number one thing is
Yeah.
we need talent,
Yeah.
and that's the thing about it. So why would we? I mean, I understand like anything can happen
Mm-hmm.
because if Boganzi does that, then he gonna have an ace up his sleeve to do something else. I
Mm-hmm.
know he does. If he does a move like that, it has to be something like he has an ace up his sleeve to flip it around.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, uh, I just think that AJ's a great player, but that ship has sailed for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That ship has sailed.
Yeah, ship
yeah,
has sailed. I
yeah.
don't even think he wants to come back here, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that
I
ship
don't think
has
so.
sailed. I
Yeah.
think we
I,
left a
I
bad taste in his
see
mouth.
Henry coming back for his comeback. And I don't even think
Who?
now. I just think maybe he might retire tight. I don't know how far I can go. I'm not gonna go that deep into that, but I am gonna toss it to Ice. I know he wanted to jump in on some comments. I know he said something to say about Jeff. He's been real quiet. I've been nervous, man. I'm not used to that, man. I need to hear his voice like every 2 minutes. Y'all don't understand. No, you good. You good. Go ahead. Do your thing, man. Dude.
Hello? Is he talking?
Can you hear him? Exactly. I can't
I
hear
can
him.
hear you.
I can't hear him. I can't see him or hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear him or see him.
I see you and hear you. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe because you're the host. That's probably why. Because you're probably the host of this, so you can probably see him. No, we can't see him at all.
Everything looking good. That's weird. You good on my end, brother. I don't know if you want to jump back out and jump back in, maybe, but you good on me, maybe.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, CBT, yeah, jump in and jump back out. Want to hear his point, man. I want to hear him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like I was saying, I think that ship has sailed with AJ. It's not that I wouldn't want him. The thing is that what price?
Mm-hmm.
Because we need too much talent on this team. We need too much on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You
also,
know?
you got to look at it. You
Yeah,
got to
you're
look
good. You're
at that
good.
is going to not only that, and I'm gonna just say this and toss it to him because I want him to get to his point, but also consider, like I had said that earlier in the show. Let's say we could, though. Let's just say we could afford it. He wanted to. Everything worked out. He's the type of person that commands too many targets. You're taking away from everybody else that you Ridley, Wandale, Chimray, Ella, anybody,
Yep.
whoever you bring. He's not coming in here to be a low volume or a second or third string guy. So you got to consider that and that's why I say any veteran, let alone AJ's, for sure. So you want to develop your other guys. You want to get, your rookie who you might draft this year some touches on the field. So you'll be pulling targets away to appease a veteran for 1 year, and that might be hindering the development of your other people. Like I said, I'm not gonna go too deep in that. I'm gonna let Ice get back. So all y'all good with the audio and visual on Ice from your end?
Oh yeah, I see him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're good.
hear me and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys have the same feeling, but it's like when I think about Jeff and I think about the last few years, after having the 2019 season that he had, he was on that team, um, it's like watching a guy just like y'all ever watch The Longest Yard, where Adam Sandler keeps getting his butt whooped on the basketball court, but he keeps coming back, just keeps coming
Oh
back,
yeah.
and you know what I mean. And then like he gains that respect. It's like I feel like that's kind of what Jeff's done because he's just going through these tough years, man, and we're all watching it and we're like, man, he keeps coming out here with this fire and like how does he do it? Like
Yeah.
and so like now he's getting what he deserves. He's got some guys around him, some
We
dogs.
we owe him. We owe
Yeah,
him.
I mean he's getting what
Yeah.
he's owed, man. JFM, like, let me tell you,
Dog.
like when Sweat was drafted, like, and I'm not taking anything away from Sweat, but Simmons was so hyped. He was like, "Thank you for the help," and so like now you got a guy JFM, and I'll admit JFM is a big step up,
Mm-hmm.
above Sweat. So I mean now what you're getting. You don't have to guess with Sweat.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mixed bag, but JFM, you got a dog, man, and then you got some other dogs on the other side, some players with experience, and there's that word again, experience. Like I mean, we're just all over the place with this team. So I think Jeff is feeling really good right now. Like I feel like I'm happy for him. I think that's how I feel right now. But going back to the offensive line, and which is the title at the bottom here, like Cordell Volson and Slater, I think could compete for that right guard position. I, and which go as you guys were talking, I started developing like this grand opinion, and that is that I think that Borgonzi it has built this team in free agency so that if we didn't have an NFL draft, okay, just imagine that it didn't exist. We could go into the season technically. It wouldn't be pretty at some positions, but we could go into the season and we have a team. So like, so basically you guys were talking about what if he doesn't get this guy in the draft and yada yada. I think that's what he's prepared for. I think
Yep.
he is prepared so that if we don't get the guy we want, it's not that big of a deal. We're gonna make it. We'll just plug another hole that's missing.
Pivot, pivot,
And
pivot.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man.
so, and then we'll worry about that later. And I don't want to. And this is another thing y'all talked about. Like next year, it was brought up a couple of times. I don't like to get too into next year because last year everybody was talking about this year, and this year ain't all that. So like
Mm-hmm.
next year looks like right now it looks like it's gonna be nice. Like you got all these players, and then come next year, like Dante Moore is your Drew Aller. Arch Manning doesn't pan out. Like now there's no quarterbacks. Like you know what I mean. We don't know what next year's going to be like. We got to worry about
Shout out,
the here and the
shout out to
now.
Green Bay back last year.
Yeah, yeah, but I think people are ignoring the possibilities in free agency though. Like for next year, I don't want to say that the draft is going to have everything, but if something happens and we don't get Jeremiah Love and say we draft Mike Washington and he doesn't work out either,
Mhm.
and we've got a problem at running back next year because Pollard's gone. I think there's going to be another Kenneth Walker, another Travis Etienne. I think there's going to be somebody in free agency that we can go after if we have to have them. I don't think
Oh,
that
yeah.
I don't think it's like do or die with Jeremiah Love. Like we're gonna be all right. Okay, we're gonna be all
Yeah,
right.
to your point too, when you said about like trade back, that's what like last year when we were the scenario with the first pick of the draft, and everybody was like, we should trade it back, we should trade it back. Everybody was saying the quarterbacks, there's gonna be so many more quarterbacks this year. That's not true. Now we're here. It's not there. It's really not there. That's why I'm so happy. But also too, on top of that too, like I tell people all the time, we needed leadership, and Cam Ward provides that for our team. We needed that more than anything. So when we got Cam Ward is a big reason why we got Brian Dable. To be honest with you,
It's the
if you
reason.
think about it that way, there's a good reason. There's a big reason why Robert Saleh came here. He believes in Cam Ward.
It's the reason.
So yeah. So people don't understand that. That's why we drafted him number one, because we once they saw that that he's capable of what he's doing, that opened a light bulb. Dang, I can work with this kid. I can do this. I want to come to Tennessee, because a lot of people now want to come to Tennessee. Look at what Dale Robinson said. I came here because of you, man. He told him that. So you got to think about it. For when we ever heard somebody say, I want to come to Tennessee in the last like 5 years, unless we threw a big check at him, you know.
Yep.
so for that
Yeah.
to top off, I think a lot of people don't understand like that's the power of drafting him number one gave us. And we can't. That's invaluable in the NFL, because so somebody want to come play with your quarterback, it could be multiple people after he, especially if he has a breakout year next year. It could be multiple people next year. Man, I want to go to Tennessee. I want to come here. Man, look, you see what he did. Man, I want that's the momentum that we want to carry on. So for me, last year trade back was not an option for me. We needed a quarterback. We got a position to get the best one in the draft, and we got the best one in the draft, in my opinion. So right there, that was enough for me. I was never team trade back last year. So this year, especially because I don't believe in next year there's going to be this guy. You don't know how that's going to fall out. Drew Aller got hurt. You don't know how that's going to fall out for people.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not to say that just like next year, We don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't. But the only thing we can do is prepare for what we have right now in the moment. Be in the moment right now for this season. Because next year, yes, we could think about next year, but at the same time, too, we have to prepare for what's right now in front of us. Because we don't know how it's going to shake out next year.
I don't know how it's going to shake out this year.
Exactly.
Good point. Yeah.
But I'm just more so looking at the depth of the position. I mean, look, the whole first round can get injured day one. What I'm saying is the premium position is under. You can't stay in college forever. These guys have to move on at some point. They give these guys the option to double back. It was guys who were supposed to come out. Everybody's not going to have that option, and I'm just saying it's very, very deep at a lot of premium positions. Now, how the chips may fall, because I mean, honestly, if we do hit the 10-7 mark, I said we're going to hit. We'll be picking in the 20 somewhere. So I mean, it's not like we'll be. But what I'm saying is that it will be more premium. Now, yeah, we don't know, but you have to consider, because if you don't look ahead, then you're not prepared. It's not to take your attention away from what you have now. It's just proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. It's what the Navy SEALs, they say. And so you will want a GM who's at least understanding the players that have come out, so you can, like you say, he's going to have multiple boards. It's not like, oh, we're going to get that guy. I mean, they did with Patrick Mahomes. But I'm saying, he'll have more people to at least have an eye on and tell the scouts, hey, this is who we got. Keep an eye on this guy. Let's see what's going on. And then as we get closer to it, we'll see how they develop, because he's going to have contingency plans. Because like you said, we don't know, but the best people have contingency plans just in case. And so I can be prepared no matter how the chips may fall. Now, we have to do what we can do now, and we have to do it week by week. We hope everyone stays healthy. Hey, there may be some people who might not make it to the season because of what happens this summer. We see people get injured in train. Saleh wants us to have what do you want? He wants us to have
the joint practices
with a lot of different teams. That can get messy, but I'm actually all for it. I think that that's great competition, because not only do we get to go against each other, but it's kind of giving these guys the season before the season, because usually it's just like one team or two, but you don't get that switch up every week because that's how the season's going to go. You're going to have to prepare for the next team next week, and so forth and so on. And so instead of us just having ourselves and then maybe one joint, if we are able to pull off 2 or 3 joints, I think that is great preparation for the season that's to come for these guys, because that's exactly how the game plan is going to switch up for and like I said, if you want the ultimate goal, and I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, you're preparing for a 20-week season, not a 17. You're preparing for a 20 or 21, I think. But yeah, at least, assuming that you get a first round bye, but 20 to 21 week season. So that's a true championship preparation, not just getting through the season or ending it with a good record. So, and like I said, that's just what I like to do. You'll notice in conversations with me, I don't try to pivot too much or try to preach too much optimism, but I do try to look at the in between and try to look at the intangibles, because I think that I've noticed in my observation of NFL over the years that a lot of times they play more of a role than people think, but that just was my point. I agree with you all. I just wanted to emphasize that I wasn't, diving too deep into it, but we will be here. And if this is what we're going to do, we're going to talk about it. It can't hurt to bring it into I'm not talking about the 28 guys. I am talking about, the guys that's coming next year. But for me, I think it's exciting because when we hit May of next year, May 2027, this will be Borgonzi's team, because he said it's going to take 2 to 3 years to build, and he wants to have 100 picks and top. So we would have seen 3 drafts, 3 free agencies through 1 GM, which we haven't had recently, but nonetheless, at least not successful anyway. But from his track record so far, I'm excited to see what he wraps this up in 3 years and the team that he's brought together. And I still think we'll have great cap space at that point, just because the way he moves. Moving on from guys like Brownlee and T'Vondre Sweat and other guys, in McCreary, it shows that he's not afraid to make the necessary moves. If it's if your production isn't there, okay, we're not gonna keep household names. WI, get him out of Malik Willis, get him out of here. A couple guys. So it was hurtful to see some guys move. I'm not gonna lie, but looking back on it, you kind of want that tough leadership that isn't afraid to make the necessary moves to make sure that the team is in the best position. And I think he did good with the chips that he had to play with. But But yeah, and I think he's another piece too that people have to consider. It starts at the top. If you got a competent GM and then you got competent coaches, I mean, I love everything about this structure from Borgonzi down to the special teams players. I mean, the coaching staff looks good. Even when you look at some of the other people that we're not talking about, the linebacker, the O-line, the wide receiver coach, it's like we have the nickelback coach. I mean, he got a whole position. I mean, everything is great. It's looking great. And even to Jackson's point earlier, well, the fact that he mentioned, and we all know that Saleh didn't even call plays in the Jets, and he always had a top 5 defense is bananas. You didn't even call plays and still produce, and you never had the good offense. But he always had an overall, and then certain units might have been in different positions. But if you go back and look at it, I think outside of 1 year, they were always in the top 5, which is crazy. So I think now with the talent that he has and actually having a quarterback, which I think we all can say, Saleh has a good quarterback right now. Cam is better than anything that he's had in New York. Yeah, and he got a good GM. I mean, the Jets, they always have been an organization that just, that's not a good organization. We just put it like that. And so that, Borgonzi, like I said, everyone has something to prove. This is Borgonzi's first chance to be in the GM. I don't want to mess this up. I want to be a GM. This is what I wanted. Saleh getting a second chance. Dayball has something to prove without the added stress of having to be the head coach. Cam wants to look way better. Like you said, Jeff Simmons wasn't even proud of his performance. I mean, there's so many people right here that has Kevin Winston needs to bounce back. Femi needs to bounce back. There's so many people that have something to prove that I'm just like, I wouldn't want to be in the way of that type of energy. And with a head coach that's willing to let the dogs out the leash and let you play. Oh man, it's gonna be scary for a lot of teams this year. But yeah, that's just something that I think that we should all consider. Yeah, I mean, look, is there any other points or anything that you guys want to jump on or bring up or highlight before we wind down and start to get out of here?
I'm good, man. I just want to say a shout out to y'all fellas. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. Titan Report, I do watch some of your stuff, man. So keep up the good work, man.
Appreciate you.
So I do watch your stuff. Ice Titan, I do watch your stuff too. I see your tweets and everything, man. So
yeah,
and me, I tweet, but I'm gonna keep trolling Texans fans.
Keep doing that. Keep doing that.
He's down there at Ground Zero. He in Houston, y'all. So he out there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just kind of close it up. I know it was kind of want to mention it. Rest in peace to Coach Mack, who passed away Monday afternoon. Very unfortunate situation. I got to meet Coach Mack a couple times, and my dad knows somebody who Coach Mack actually coached, one of the players he coached. And the thing about Coach Mack is he's a tremendous guy who just really knew all about the game, and the Titans community is embracing. So just praying for his whole family, 104.5, Titans Radio, all the family and friends. And I think it's just, I've listened to a lot of stuff earlier today, and really over the last 2 months, I've really seen the Titans community come together, right? Over on the shows or wherever on X, on wherever you want to see it, the Titans community is very, very strong, and it's been absolutely just tremendous seeing the support come in and everything pour in and meet you guys. Man, I literally met you guys like weeks ago. This is the first time I see you guys today. I mean, just coming in together and just meeting Titans fans, it's been a blessing. So I love this fan base. This fan base really come together this off season. It's been great to see. So love it.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I'm gonna add him to the group chat, y'all, man. He gonna be our newest member. I'm gonna put him in there when we done. So he gonna be in there talking with us too, man. Look, sometimes we behave, sometimes we don't.
It's okay. I get that.
I'm gonna need your sensible help, man, because we got a couple of trolls in here.
Let's do it. I got you.
We need some.
Oh yeah, be on the lookout, guys. I'm gonna be doing some videos this week on my channel.
Okay.
So be on the lookout.
Let us know. Let me know if there's anything I can do on my end. I'm always willing to help with graphics, logo, anything y'all need. Just let me know. I do all that good stuff.
For sure, man.
Ice, I'm gonna tell you now, bro. I said I won't go say nothing, but I'm gonna just say you got some messages waiting for you in the chat. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say.
Some ghostly messages.
Look, messages. That's all I'm gonna just say messages. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah. So that's cool. So look, we're gonna wrap this thing up. And so with that, all of that being said, I just want to say that I appreciate all of you out there for tapping in and rocking out with us. Thank you for being a part of the journey. I'm really trying to build something real over here, a place for Titan fans to pull up, speak up, and feel at home. So help me get the word out so more of the Two-Tone family can get a chance to do the same, because all are welcome. If you enjoyed this, just do me a solid. Like, share, subscribe, and follow. Catch me on Twitter, IG, TikTok at the Two-Tone Bandit. Let me know how you feel down below. I'll be checking back soon. TTFU all day, baby. I'm the Two-Tone Bandit, and we are out of here.